to complain, but there's things in the game.
What's your name?
Consequence, I'm tight, burnt like flames.
And why's that?
American dream, they got this ghetto kid in the fiend.
Don't stress that, cause it's not in your bloodstream. Your whole being comes from greatness, we remember. Jake's Long got you caught in the storms of December. And brothers on the block packing nines like September.
I'm Sasha Nicole.
And I'm Star.
And this is Amerikan Therapy, the definitive podcast on all things black mental health. What we talking about, Star?
Okay, you just gave me that look while I'm putting on lip gloss. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a little under the weather. But we are talking about pregnancy, infant loss, and infertility, and how that impacts the community's mental health. Did I get it?
Yeah, I think you got it.
All right. Who we have in the studio? We got a lot of people up in this house.
We got some surprises today.
Okay.
So, well, first and foremost, we have as our call-in special guest, we have Erica M. McAfee. She is the founder and chief sister of Sisters in Loss, a digital media platform dedicated to helping millennial black women replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and fertility. Its self-titled podcast is the first and only podcast that spotlights resilient black mothers who share intimate details of their journey through motherhood, through loss and infertility stories. Sisters in Loss has been featured in Black Enterprise, Women's Health, and Refinery 29 as a resource to heal, gain clarity and peace, and find hope after loss. Launched in August 2017, the podcast has amassed a community of 20,000 sisters in loss. Erica is a bereavement doula, grief specialist, mom to 2 angels in heaven, and 1 rainbow baby Maxwell, also known as Super Mighty Max. She is also alumni of Virginia Commonwealth University, VCU, with a BS in chemical engineering.
All right now.
All right. And then we have a new clinician in the studio with us. We're so excited to have her. And so I am just, you know what? I'm just pulling up her bio because, y'all, I left it on the printer. But in the meantime, while I'm pulling that out, we have Neo Noir Podcast, the guys, Darius the Great and Thomas, who are joining us because they have some things that they want to share in regards to infant loss. And so we're excited to have a man perspective.
And Rodney.
Oh yeah, and Rodney.
He don't talk.
He might not tell us if he lost any babies.
He don't talk where he is.
So our clinician for today, we have Christian Howard. She is a national board certified psychotherapist, a certified clinical mental health counselor, and licensed professional counselor in DC. She's a mental health advocate and nonprofit consultant, originally from LA, but raised in San Bernardino, California. Overcoming the odds from her environment where it was plagued by gang violence, she decided to attend Clark Atlanta University as a psychology major, postponing her dreams of being a medical doctor to understand why individuals behave the way that they do. After the death of her high school sweetheart, with them both understanding their love for music, Christian, a dancer, and her high school sweetheart, an inspiring artist, she took an interest into music, art therapy, and began interning in the entertainment industry, working with the likes of Trey Songz and Polo the Don. Who is Trey Songz' baby mama? I know you know.
Is he as fine in person? No. Is he as fine in person?
Right.
I think my panties just fall off if I got in front of him. I'm joking.
I went to Virginia State, and he used to be there often because he's from Petersburg.
Oh.
I mean, he all right. After graduating undergraduate school, she joined the U.S. Army to become a civil affairs non-commissioned officer. Damn, I didn't know that she was in the Army. Joining the military forces to provide those in her community an outlet and resources outside of gang affiliation. She continued her quest to be a medical doctor. She's been a keynote speaker for the Physician Leadership Program at the University of Riverside in 2012. And then also, Christian later found herself receiving a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling in 2015 from Argosy University. She has a consulting business, CL Enterprise LLC, that assists nonprofits with fund development and programmatic structuring, understanding that not all resources provide evidence-based treatment and outcomes. She has 11 years of nonprofit experience, and she's a board member for Big Dreams Incorporated, which provides mentoring for women in the DMV. She also recently completed her board pipeline training with Associated Black Charities of Maryland, and so she's also been involved with plenty of mission trips. She is currently studying for her PhD at Howard University. Christian Howard is, because that's her last name, and I can't read today. Is studying for her PhD at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, majoring in international psychology with a concentration on organizations and systems. And she's also a program director at Sasha Bruce. So we're excited to have.
Oh, you work at Sasha Bruce.
I was a resident at Sasha Bruce.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Get out.
6 degrees of separation. We're having like a little reunion up in here.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So
Merlin Avenue.
Wow. Oh, so you was at Bruce House.
I was at Bruce House, and I went to Sasha Bruce Youth Build, got my GED.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah. So we'll have some great conversation offline. But in the meantime, talk about our topic. We are excited to have everybody in here. Erica, let's start with you and just talk about, you've been doing so much work As you mentioned, you have a rainbow baby. You lost 2 children. Can you tell us, like, what was that like for you going through that, and how did you turn that pain into now triumph and helping other women?
Well, thank you all for allowing me to call in. I know I'm not in studio with you all, but I feel like I'm there. So it was devastating. As you all can imagine, losing anyone in your life is difficult. But when you lose a child, somebody, a baby that you're actually carrying, that you already connected with, it was devastating for me. And I had my losses back to back. So they were, I lost a son right at birth at 39 weeks. Then I lost a daughter, about 7 months later at 18 weeks. So I was going through this process of really trying to understand exactly why this occurred. What did I do? Was it something that was, internally that I did with my body? And then the external factors, was there any implicit bias or systemic racism that was going on in the healthcare system, and they didn't do their due diligence when it came to how I was treated? So I went through that entire journey and really wanted to find a community of women that were sharing their stories just like I was on Facebook, and then within, my circle of friends. So that's really what pushed me to start a podcast, to start a community and create a community so that we could share those stories, because I believe Black women who are surrounded by other Black women, that we get something from each other. We have the power to heal one another in ways that other people can't. And being in a sense of community, especially when you are feeling like you're alone and you are in silence, it helps continue to help you along in your grief and your healing journey.
When you back up for a minute, you said you had lost a child at 39 weeks. So that's like full term.
Yes, it was full term. He was full term when I went into labor with him, or I was induced, and he was born via C-section and was born not breathing. So he came out and did not take any breaths of air, and we were devastated. We questioned God, we questioned everything, because we planned and prepared for that baby. We did all the right things. Go to the classes, you prepare the nursery, you have a big baby shower, and then we walked out of the hospital without a baby.
Was there any time where, like, you and your husband, was there a moment where you felt like your husband looked at you differently?
Absolutely, especially with my son, because with my son, it's where my infertility battle started, because my son was born early. He was born premature, and as a result of his traumatic birth, my husband had to sign off to get me a hysterectomy in order to save my life. So I had the ability to have more children taken away from me. So it was more that thought process came back. It kind of crept back up. It was there before when we lost our 2 babies, but then when we had our son and then I lost my physical ability to have more children, it crept back up, and I had to go back to therapy and do more work, because I was faced with a completely different situation where I was grieving the children that I could not have. Wow. So in that process, I did. I felt like, oh, well, will he want me anymore? He definitely did, sign off to take this part out of me, but it was really to save my life. The reason why I'm still here and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because God gave me the second chance, the second opportunity to be a living testimony to the losses that I had, the traumatic births that I had, and to really just share my story. So yes, I definitely felt like he had, I almost felt like I did not have control over my body in any of those situations, let alone this last pregnancy that I had. And I wanted to make sure that he understood that, how whole I was without being able to physically carry more children, And I think he completely understood that. It was just more me doing that internal battle like we all do when something traumatic happens in our lives.
Wow. Darius Thomas, you know, as the two men in here,
Right.
you know, what's your perspective? Have you guys ever lost a child, or what was your feelings as men going through that situation with your significant other?
Well, what's this? 12 years ago, I was with a young lady, and she lost our child, and I wasn't supportive. Like, I wasn't empathetic to her. I was really cold towards her, and the reason at that time of my life, like, it's funny that you, because you're into psychotherapy and things of that nature. I suffer from like post-traumatic stress. So I had a mother who was diagnosed with a personality disorder. She was a borderline personality disorder. So being through that, and it kind of you start to lack empathy. And with her, I was really lacking empathy because I was unfaithful. So when she lost her child, I was actually on a date with another girl.
No.
I was at Phillips. And I remember she hit me, and she was just like she seen on social, on Facebook or whatever, and it was like to the point where it kind of was like I had like an epiphany. I had an epiphany. It really went and hit me when I got my heart broken. Then I started really playing like, dang, this is how we feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, so even as a man, it's like I started to feel real bad, and I started, I apologize, and then I changed with my actions, and like we're real good friends now. But I don't think I can understand the pain because I'm not carrying the baby. But from at that point, it was just like I was just so numb. My feelings was numb at that time. But in retrospect, it's like now it kind of like, when you get older, you start to understand yourself and understand your own emotions and things of that nature. Like, I feel real horrible. Like, now, like, even though she was like, you always bring that up, it's over. I'm like, nah, but it's like, yo, like, I wasn't there for you when you needed me, even though we wasn't technically together, but I should have been there. So, yeah, I experienced that situation, like, and, I have a child, I have an 8-year-old daughter. And when my child mother was pregnant, it was totally opposite. Like, I was taking her to every hospital visit. I was there, helped when the baby was delivered. So I had two sides of each spectrum. You know what I'm saying? So, but it definitely was tough.
My story was kind of similar. I wasn't out at Phillips when she told me.
You got rubbing in,
My son was probably 6. And we was expecting another child. So she went to the doctor and she was all excited because, 2 kids, that's what's up. I'm like, maybe I'm going to have another boy, maybe I have another girl. And she went to the doctor one day and they was checking for a heartbeat. And she didn't hear it. I wasn't at the visit. Like, she texted me and was like, we lost the baby. And I was like, initially I was just like, damn. I had no real emotions towards it because my whole thing is it wasn't a full baby at that point. So I'm like, damn, how you feeling? I canceled everything so I could be there for her because I know, like, that's a big thing. She's not that old, so you being young is like, I'm still going to console you in some kind of way. And it really didn't hit me till one day we went to the movies, and we went to see the movie Concussion. And in the movie, the doctor's wife had lost a baby. And in my head, I had said it. I was like, damn, she lost that baby. And I looked over, and she started crying. And I was like, oh, shit, it's still fresh. And I was like, in that moment, I felt that I was like, no matter at what point in the pregnancy it is, she felt that connection, like, this is my child. And I wish I was there to hear that sonogram just a little bit, because when my son was being born, I wasn't there to hear the heartbeat. So, the whole steps of when we find out what the baby is, the sex of the baby, you hear the heartbeat, this, that, and the third. But for my daughter that I just had now, I was there for everything, so I'm like, I need to hear all this. So when you first hear that heartbeat and it's going like that real fast, you get that little unconditional love that you almost have tears of joy just a little bit. And it brought me right back to that, and it was like, damn, she was sitting in that room, and she didn't hear that heartbeat. And that could have been the first little girl we had. But God blessed us with 2, so. Yeah.
That's hard.
So yeah, I called my little girl our miracle baby. Yeah.
I mean, I just think about like, how do you process that grief when you don't have anything in front of you to show the impact of that grief? Grief is in the sense of like how the world sees grief and how the world sees loss. I lost my fourth niece, Hope, at 25, 26 weeks. And you know, like I remember seeing with my sister-in-law, this is her fourth daughter. And so, you know, it's like, you don't have a baby, but the baby's gone, and she was really grieving. And even in the hospital, like they really don't have a good process to handle women who have just lost a baby, because she's still in the maternity ward. She's around a bunch of women that have babies. I think they put like a flower upside down, an upside down carnation on the door to let like the staff know like this woman just lost her child. And I remember even staff members not thinking, you know, it's just like there's no setup to help even. And then we were family and we're all there. We felt it, but we didn't feel it like she felt it. So how does the mother, after just losing a baby, like how can the family support? How can her community support? Because it's different from everybody else. Like it's a loss, but we didn't know that child. She knew that child, like from a clinician standpoint.
And I think that Erica kind of set it off, like she put it all in one.
Yeah.
You have to just be there for them, like support them as much as you can. I think that grief does look different. It's not depression. You can't have like medication or anything that's going to help you. You literally have to go through those phases kind of alone. Sometimes it is just like them wanting quiet time, isolating themselves, but you just have to be there. I think it's kind of like when you lose like your grandparents or something, how the family come and like everyone is like, oh, I'm going to buy you, like make food for you, or we're just gonna sit around and have like talk about like how grandpa did X, Y, and Z. Like I think that is the kind of support that you need. But I think counseling is probably one of the best things that you can do, because grief and loss is a real specialty that some clinicians are not really aware of. Okay. So I really do think like there's places here in DC like the Went Center who are like really great at the grief and loss, and you have to really just support them in those ways. And I think like when you said earlier, because we kind of talked about this before, it's just like those stages. Like I lost the baby at 4 weeks, and I felt, well, maybe it was like those 6 weeks, but I felt the same way. I felt like I might have lost it at 39 weeks, because you do go into the hospital and you see that you're pregnant, but the doctors told me it was no fetus, that the chromosomes didn't match up. But then they made me go through like the medication of doing the abortion, but when the actual fetus came out. So it was like on one side the doctor's like it's nothing, but on the other side it's like you go home and the fetus is in your hand.
Good God.
So I do think like what Erica said about like do the doctor really know what to do? And like you said, they don't know how to. This is kind of why I went into mental health and psychology, is because doctors at first were not doing on the MCAT, it was no test about psychology. And so like you have a psychiatrist, but you don't have like the mental piece, like the feel piece, right? Psychiatrists are those who are like really doing medication a lot. And so you don't have that psychotherapy, that talk therapy. And neuroplasticity is real.
We had a show. We talked about
right.
neuroplasticity.
And so I think that like these conversations are real with healing. Like listening to Erica's story, I'm like, dang, like my situation was not that. You know, like I can't even talk about myself, because that right there is something that I don't even know how I would make it. But I mean, that's real. Like grief and loss is probably one of the most like silent killers, I want to say, because you just don't know how people are going to deal with a loss of anybody.
And I would say, like, with my sister-in-law, I saw that even in the hospital, it was like a black woman, and maybe this is because, you know, it was happening to us and our family, but it felt like there wasn't the same level, I don't want to say compassion or what, empathy, but like a black woman losing a baby. It was almost like, oh, like there's this sense that every black woman having a baby is a welfare mother. Not that even being a welfare mother makes you less of a human, less valuable, less anything. But like, oh, well, that's less burden on you.
Or not even that. You're supposed to be strong. You're a strong black woman, so you can take anything, right? Like
That's how they preface it, yeah.
Yeah, like literally, and I agree with you. When I went to the hospital, it was myself and my ex-husband, and he dressed up in a suit. I'm like, and there were business clothes. I have a engagement ring on, and we're like, yeah, we're about to have this baby. And the doctor is just sitting there like, are y'all together? Like, is this your brother? Like, what?
Yeah, they do that.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's stereotype, and I agree. Like, oh, it's one less child that you have to think about, and that's that society like putting that thought process on us all. Because I'm gonna be honest, and I hate to say this, but I feel like I have to be transparent. I was an intern at the Veterans Hospital, and I was working in the emergency room with another social worker. And a black woman came in, and she was just like, I'm stressed. I just need some help. And I'm like, oh, you just need a little respite care. Like, just go to sleep for a night, and we're you don't need to go up and have a psychiatric assessment. Like, you'll be fine. And the social worker had to put me to the side and say, like, why do you think that? And I had to check myself and say, to be honest, I don't know. I just thought like, life is hard, but she will get through, And he was just like, no, like, she needs to go get like assessed.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I told him, I said, you know why I thought that? It's because in my mind, black women, we are supposed to just be strong and kind of keep going.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. I think it's wrong, and I'm happy I went through that moment because it had to break me down. Now, I would never say that ever again in my life.
I got you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I hate that the strong black woman mantra. I just hate I was talking about my anxiety.
Yeah.
On the show, it's funny, I was just saying like, it's real. It's like, but because the world's always going, and you talk, especially as men, you taught to persevere through things, but it's not even. I don't think it's a sex thing; it's a human thing. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has a breaking point, and the accumulation of trauma. It will reach its head. I don't care who you are. Like if you don't have an outlet or you're not really aware of like a self-assessment as far as what's going on, you're going to reach that breaking point. You're going to implode. It's like it's just inevitable.
Erica, in your network, how do you encourage women to feel safe in sharing their story? And when I'm sure you've seen a plethora of stories. How do you help them? Like, how do you manage to give them any insight in coping? I mean, are there any things that you do specifically with your platform, or just, do you do meetups? Like, what are some of the things that you do to help these women in their storytelling and to connect? And do you ever see a moment where, similar to what Christian was saying, is that, in your experience, you had lost a child at 39 weeks, but you may have a woman who lost a child at 4 weeks. Is there ever a moment where, where women may feel like, well, your story is worse than mine? Or like, how do you, manage that human nature of going through sharing those experiences?
Yeah, so I try to normalize just loss in general. A loss is a loss, no matter if it happened at 4 weeks or 39 weeks. And the feelings that you may feel, the feelings that I may feel, the feelings that, the gentleman on here may feel are all valid, right? We all have valid feelings. So that's the first thing that I do when I tell people and when they come to be a part of the community. The other part of it is really just, what is grief? What does that healing process look like for you? So what I focus a lot on my podcast in particularly is how people go through healing. Healing looks different for everyone, right? And we still are on our own journeys, wherever we are, because the grief is still there, right? Especially, now we're recording this during the holiday season. Everyone has different feelings during holiday season, right? Sometimes that grief shows up in different ways. So a lot of the things that I do talk about and I focus on the podcast is just the healing portion of it. How do we truly find healing, whether that is through therapy, through counseling, through coaching, through prayer, meditation, whatever it looks like for you. Some other ways that we focus on healing is through just workshops, meetups, brunches, conferences, all of those things are things that we do within the community to give people a sense of place and a purpose, to know that they don't actually have to come out and share their stories, because not everybody's ready yet. Not everybody's at their place where they're willing to share. but to know that they can come and be poured into. And then, you know, when they get the courage to be able to want to share, then they'll normally come back and say, Erica, I'm ready to share my story, or I want to do it within our Facebook community, or I actually want to be on the podcast because I know someone needs to hear my story. I know that it's going to benefit someone, and I know by speaking it out loud, I am going to be healed, because I truly believe that there is power in our words, that there is testimony in everything that we say and do, and that we can find true healing by speaking to the things that have hurt us, that have pained us, the traumatic events that we had in our lives. And it's the reason why therapy is important in general, you know, no matter what you're going through.
Christian, how do you utilize psychotherapy towards someone comes in and says, I'm going through this grieving process? What does that look like for you as a counselor?
I mean, just kind of like validating what they're going through, definitely normalizing, and just talking it through. What coping mechanisms do they already have, and then trying to figure out what do they like, what do they like to do, what do they want to do, trying to get them out of their comfort zone, but also just allowing them to kind of tailor it themselves. I think a lot of people think therapy is like, oh, I'm going to give you advice on what to do. No, it's really just using the tools you already have and sharpening them. So like if you already, and we're trying to find healthy ways for you to cope with it. So like some people feel like, you know, going to the movies or going out to dance or being with friends helps you kind of like heal and go through that process. Then we want to make sure that that is something you do in a more healthier way. But definitely validate is probably the biggest thing ever, because a lot of people do feel like, I'm alone, why me, why am I going through this?
What does validation look like? Because, you know, I think we might have one perspective of what it is, and it may not be what it actually is. Is it, I understand, you know how like somebody loses somebody and then people like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. Is that valid? Like, what is validation?
I mean, I think everything is validation. I mean, even when you go through school, they tell you about like being transparent and like sharing your story as a therapist only when it has a purpose. And so sometimes it is like a therapist sharing what they went through as well to make sure you can normalize the situation. Or it's just saying, like, allowing them to talk it through and hear them. Because like she said, not everyone is ready to share their story with the world or with a friend or with a family member, because it's judgment, right? You're scared that somebody's going to judge you. So when you're in that therapy session, a therapist is really there to just like allow you to freely talk and express what you want, what's going on inside of you, with no judgment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes in our community, people be like, oh, like, you know, something, you suffer a loss, and then people, oh, I know how you feel because my brother got shot 5 years ago. It's like, well, I don't know if they need to hear that. Like,
not at all. Yeah.
This is their brother got shot.
It's a competition of tragedy.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I've been through worse. Like, no.
yeah.
So when we talk about infertility,
ooh. I mean, because we've been trying not to have babies for years, and now it's like,
you know, it's funny because
it's
you know, a lot of people know I had my daughter, and when I had her, I had severe postpartum depression, I had thoughts of killing her. And it took 2 years for us to build a connection. And at the time, you know, I was like, what did I do? Like, I just felt like I had made a mistake. And then I was angry because I wanted a connection, but just didn't have it. And so, you know, I was like, I don't want them, like, I never really wanted, I don't want to say I didn't want kids, but I never thought about it, right? And so after I had her, I'm like, I would do anything. I don't want to have another child. It's hard. I was a single mom at the time. And then fast forward, you know, I meet a husband and, you know, we are a blended family, but then we don't have any kids together. And so he's like, you know, like he wants a child. He wants to have a child together. And all this time that, you know, you got to really, words are powerful, right? And you got to be careful with what you say, because, you know, for 3 years we tried to have a kid and I couldn't get pregnant. And so I'm like, yo.
It's like I could get pregnant when
Right. And in my mind, and not saying it's right, in my mind, I'm like, yo, like, it ain't me. Like, I done had my baby younger than yours. Like, I done had a baby. There's something wrong with your thing, right? It's not me. Because, you know, women and men, like, we don't admit, but, like, we do attach our ego to our you know, our women, our reproductive system, men to their penis, everything like that. And so he went and he's a great guy. He went, he got tested, everything's for, you know, did the sperm in the cup, all of that. And he was like, you know, it ain't me. Nah, sis. He said, nah, sis. He hit me with the nah, sis. And so then I started to go through a huge, like, internal, like, depression as to, well, like, why isn't my body producing anymore? And very regretful and angry at myself for ever speaking words as though like I didn't want to have another kid, because you know, the moment that I was in a position to have a child, I have not been successful.
And you don't hear people talk about black women and infertility,
and it fucks with you. Like it really fucks with you not being able to conceive.
You just starting to like hear infertility with black women. We don't have them conversations,
and you know, it's funny. You got to think about from historically, they've always seen black women as baby making machines, you know, or Hispanic women as the same thing. So the thought process of black women, particularly not being able to conceive, is almost like a foreign notion to what, you know, I've seen from a media standpoint and things that have been shown across. So it's been hard, and then after a while, I just was kind of like, fuck it, like I guess if we ain't gonna have a kid, like, you know, would you be willing to adopt? And he was just like, I mean, I would if we've exhausted all options. So then I went to the OB and started taking all the medicine they give you, but that shit made me feel awful. Like it makes your skin up, it makes you gain weight, all types of stuff. And so I'm taking like the Clomid and all this other shit, and I'm getting all these blood tests done, everything like this. So I'm angry at him because I feel like, yo, like I'm putting my body,
gotta do shit.
I'm putting my body through this shit, and you ain't gotta do nothing. You don't understand what it feels like to have to keep going to this fucking doctor.
Shots, all that shit.
Right. So it's you know, when we
the doc is like over here like taking notes.
Only because I always come from like a psychodynamic perspective, and I'm always thinking about like past and like what happened then. And so if we think about this whole notion of like the strong black woman, right? I was just having a conversation with my friend earlier about this. It's like, what have we done to our bodies to get to this point? And I'm not saying I'm blaming us or blaming like we did something wrong, but I'm just thinking of like myself being in the military, like, did I call, like, when I am ready to have a child, like, is that going to be an issue? Because I put myself through so much. Physical labor.
I've taken some Plan Bs.
Birth control.
Seriously. That impacts you.
Wearing heels every day. Like, what does that do to our...
I don't know, sis, you just...
No, I wear heels every day. And I'm thinking to myself, like, shit, do I need to stop? Like,
girl, I got
do I need to get ready?
I got two different places I get my Plan B from. I like, cause I don't want them seeing. I was like, what?
But it makes you wonder, putting that in your body, is it impacting your ability, you know?
They say birth control does that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I believe
Food.
I believe, and some research has shown that taking any type of birth control definitely does slow down your fertility, and it's the reason why a lot of the people who come into my community, I recommend that they get off birth control and really try the fertility awareness method to really understand what their body is doing when they don't have those hormones in their body. But everything that you all are saying about infertility is so true. I think another thing that's probably sparked the conversation around it is Michelle Obama's book Becoming when it came out, and her actually talking about conceiving both her daughters through IVF means. So a lot more black women are sharing more stories about their IVF journey. But going through any fertility treatment is trauma, because they already don't treat us right when we go to the doctors, let alone a fertility clinic where you're getting specialized service, because that's not covered by insurance. I mean, we don't talk about it. That's expensive. So, that is just ultimate trauma. So everything that you just said that you went through, I understand, because I went through it as well. It is trauma. And it's almost like you have to be, you know, definitely with a therapist when you're going through any type of fertility treatment, because there is, as black women, we put on so much on us, and we already carrying so much with us. Going into those doctor's offices and, you know, having to say, you know, exactly what's wrong with us 50, 11 times is a lot, let alone getting medication and it not working, or going through paying thousands of dollars and going through an IVF treatment and that round does not work and you got to go spend another $30,000 to do it again. That is just so much trauma. So everything that y'all are saying is, oh yeah, so true.
And the value of Black motherhood, I think it's really, to me, like, 40 years old, just now trying to have a child. I mean, like, you spend so much time trying not to get pregnant. And then, like, you get a certain point where I noticed my white female friends, they had even in their mind, a plan, or like, okay, I want a child at this age. Whereas Black women, we're not taught to think about our child, having babies and building a plan, because you ain't gonna have the eggs of a 20, 30-year-old forever.
I was just talking about that because I have a friend. Dang, it's crazy, like how we was talking about this
Hey,
on the
man, the
show.
universe, man.
I had a friend who, like, she's 23, and she has a child, and she's in a situation she might be pregnant again. But it's like in a situationship, they're not, they're not, it's no stability, it's no foundation. And she's like struggling between, like, I don't want to have an abortion, but you're already a single mom with a father that's not already involved.
Okay.
And like you said, the planning aspect in our community, like, it's in our culture. And I don't want to generalize. I don't want to say that all Black women don't plan their children, but it's not like.
But
it's
all
so,
Black women, I'm joking.
My
My mother told me, she was like, girl, I
No.
did not plan to get pregnant again.
But just as Black people, it's just like we had this pressure of, like, we have to do everything young or quick. It's like where it seemed like in other cultures, it's like everything is planned. Like, you lay down a financial foundation first. You finish your goals and your and then having a baby at 40. It's not looked down upon as a Black woman having a baby before. It's like, oh, you're gonna be old raising a child. And it's like, you're gonna be 60 when your child 20, and and it's like we look at age so differently. Like we make it seem like 40 is like that's it. You know what I mean?
But historically, we were having babies at 15, 14, multiple. So that was like the standard. We had that standard. And then even when you talk about like financially planning, we were not financially literate, let's be honest.
I mean, we didn't have finance.
Right. So like that was not a part of our life. It was like surviving was the only way. So we were survival mode.
Surviving. And now we're in a new era. We've got new resources.
Information age.
And now we're like, okay, we're trying to get from surviving mindset to like thriving or just sustaining. And I even see it in myself where it's like little things I catch myself being like, why do you think so less and lack, and like, why is that in your perspective? And now with the fertility thing, it's like, and Black women, we do not talk about our problems. I'm gonna generalize. Like we don't. You can't be at no family dinner talking about, well, I'm on my second round of shots, trying to have this baby. What your aunties and mama and all them be
Sometimes
like, what?
they do that though.
You can't have a baby.
But then we internalize, like, if we do know someone going through that, like I have a friend of mine who's going through infertility right now, and everyone around her who is getting pregnant won't tell her because they think that she's not going to be genuinely happy for them, or they feel as though they're going to hurt her. So it's like, not only a lot of times are we not talking about what we're going through, we're afraid to address or to actually welcome in someone else who is going through it, and or leaving them out, excluding them, because we feel as though that they're not going to be capable or strong enough in being around that environment. So it's a tough thing either way. I mean, I would like to ask the men, if you're dealing with a woman and you feel like she's not being able to conceive, how do you feel like, would you ever look at her differently? Like, do you feel like,
first things first, I'm gonna do what your husband had to do, because I'm gonna have to make sure it wasn't me.
that's real though.
Yeah.
That's honest.
Before I had my son, it was a little bit of me saying I don't want kids, but then it was like, hold up, I gotta at least get somebody pregnant just to see.
Get somebody.
I gotta see my sperm
I'm
work.
gonna be
Like when you young, that's the first thing you go through. You ain't thinking about nothing. You like, does it work? Like after some point, you like, I
Is that how you tested to see if it worked?
Yeah,
You got
that's-
pregnant.
That's how, like,
you need
yeah,
a pregnancy
my nigga.
scare.
Well,
That is the dumbest thing.
At 16?
You know what's so funny?
Oh my gosh.
Sheesh.
We just talked about generalizing, and here you come
I'm telling you what my logic was at that age.
At 16?
Bro, that's what
I
you
believe.
think.
I believe you.
This is man logic.
That's a man logic.
This is man logic. I'm telling you. They be like,
okay.
all right, my dick don't work if I didn't get nobody pregnant. If I never had a pregnancy scare, if everybody in your group has had
Nah, niggas do have dumbass
We
logic.
don't say the N
We
word
don't
on
say
the
the
show.
N-word on this show.
Guys
do have logic.
Guys do have some
If
stupid
everybody
logic,
around you
though.
had a
I
pregnancy
had
scare,
dumb
you'd be
logic.
like, nah, not me, bro. They'd be like, what?
Okay, so as a man now, you with a woman, she's having infertility issues. Do you think at any moment you're looking at her, like, especially when you find out it's not you, are you looking at her at less of a woman in any capacity?
Nah, because we can still have sex.
Are you gonna stay with her though, long term?
Yeah.
What happens if
love
you
her,
want a
yes.
child and she can't have a child?
We can adopt.
Would you feel or be willing to really adopt a child that you know is not yours?
Yeah.
Men are
Really good.
different.
No, really good.
Really?
Yeah, like I first of all, I got health insurance, so we can figure out what's going on. If it's me or
Ladies,
you.
he got health insurance.
You know what I'm saying?
But what
I
if
just-
it's her? What if it's
If it's
her?
her, man, I'm a Scorpio, so if I love you, I love you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm one of them people. Like, if I'm emotionally attached to you and I love you, it's not too much that I'm not gonna go through with you.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying?
I gotta be like, I feel like my husband has never said it, but he came in and he's been a dad to my daughter. So, uh-oh.
Rodney, you got your music running through there?
Who knows are bad for that, but my husband, he's never said it, but we have my daughter, he's basically been her dad for the past 5 years, and she calls him daddy. And when I brought up the adoption, like, he was just like, I mean, after we exhaust all of our options, but I feel like internally, and he wouldn't say it, I feel like he felt like, yo, I'm already raising a kid that's not mine, and now you asking me to. I know, and like I said, he's never said that, but in my mind, and that's
in your
what
mind.
the,
Are you
what the
projecting
clinician
your
be-
feelings
Yeah,
on him?
yeah, of course. she
Probably
does.
because
Yeah.
I already feel a guilt that I have another man raising.
'Cause if he ain't say
they
it, then
raising
you
my
can't
daughter.
assume unless you
I-
have a discussion
But
with him.
I'm telling you, you talk about man logic. These are some of the things that women
women
go
go-
through
yeah.
in their mind. Especially, I've come into this relationship as a single parent. You're raising this kid who's not yours. You know, and you love her. I mean, you treat her right. You say that you love her, but can you love another child that's not yours? Like,
Can I interject something or ask a question?
Yeah,
for the lady?
absolutely.
Right. We on the seat, the couch.
When it comes to men, like I say, we're different because,
You just heard our logic.
like, I never heard a man in an argument say, "That's why you can't produce no kids." But I heard women say that to a man. That's why you shoot blanks, or that's why your thing can't stay up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I heard, and so.
We got pills. for that.
No, I'm just saying, I've heard women like insult dudes, was like, oh, you that blah, 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 oh, you, and I never heard a man, like, we don't insult like that. Like, we don't, our stuff ain't really that deep to where we, like,
That's why you don't clean the house up, you dirty.
yeah. But I'm just saying, but like,
I've heard that.
I've heard women, didn't your mother lose custody of you when you, like, we don't, like, you get what I'm saying?
But you
Like,
cope in other ways. You cope in other ways.
Yeah,
though.
it's
Like
just-
you might, like I think,
Get 'em.
step
Get
out.
'em, clinician.
Like, step out,
Yeah,
date
but-
other women,
yeah, but I'm not-
which
I'm not-
hurts the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
way
but
baby
as
with another
But y'all are
bitch.
just
Right.
like, it's like
That's-
you saying,
Words.
No girl
something
has,
I
no
wouldn't do.
dude broke up with a girl. Be like, okay, y'all might have a group chat and be like, man, this dude thing is small. No guy was like, hey man, her coochie too big. Like, we don't do
No,
that.
we do say the coochie
You know what I'm saying?
big.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about to say. You
But
might say
but
the
listen,
because my husband
lack of
has said
wetness.
that about women that he's been with.
But we would still keep going back though.
That's true.
Like, that's
Ain't
the
that
thing.
right?
Like, men are just
still works.
We're still like spit started. We would do. It's like men are just different. Like with y'all, like that.
operate
Y'all,
from
y'all
love.
would look at us less than as a man. Not all women, but some women would look at it like he can't, produce kids or he can't
okay.
perform sexually. Because I've seen situations where I know people who husband couldn't perform because they were diabetic.
Yeah.
And they looked at him like, and they was like turned, and I'm like, he's diabetic, bro. Like, this is hard for him. Like, why are you being so? Why are you lacking empathy for him right
But
now?
it's hard, and as a woman, sometimes when when a man is not touching you, you feel like he doesn't desire you.
Yeah.
Even if you know
He's got
that he
an
has a
issue.
health issue, you're kind of like, but he
Yo,
doesn't want
he had
me.
a stroke. That's why he can't
But this is
stroke.
where you go to counseling so you can understand and communicate in a more healthy way.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely unhealthy communication, throwing darts at each other, right? Hitting below the belt.
Name
Why
calling.
you telling me? I'm telling girl. You need
No,
to talk to him. No, I'm not. I'm just telling the female friend like, yo, you need to be talking to him about this.
Yes.
Like, you know
Yo,
what I'm
that's
saying?
another thing women do too, though. They won't talk to you about your issues, but they'll talk to
talk it out.
either their work husband
Yeah.
or their coworkers
Everybody's
about
got a
your
work
issues.
husband.
But this goes back to like what happens in house stays in house. This whole mindset in the Black community that we don't talk about anything, we don't tell our business, and that's why we have dysfunctional relationships within each other. Like men and women, I feel like Black men and women in particular, like we just
Too many
don't.
secrets.
We don't know how to communicate.
Says the Scorpio, the most secretive zodiac of the.
I let people know my baggage up front because it's easy. It's hard to maintain like when you trying to be something you're not, and when the mask slip off, or when you living. It's like I like man. Look, if she really like me, she gonna stick around because I'm not gonna get. But I'm always still trying to evolve and always still trying to reach to my best and highest potential. Like I know it's work to do, and I'm always because that's the thing. The honesty is the same thing. Is the best policy, and I really mean even as though sometimes the truth can hurt, but it's better to be hurt by a truth than lies.
Yes.
Or a facade.
But you have self-actualization though. Like
Yeah,
that's what's
what
going
I'm
on
saying.
over
I'm
here.
real
You know
intuitive,
yourself.
like,
Yeah.
I'm real introspective, and that comes from like trial and error. You know what I'm saying? But then when you see it, because you like just even with cheating, like the next relationship again, I'm not cheating. Like if I don't want to be in a relationship, I'm going to leave the relationship.
Have you cheated? Well, this is a whole, that's another show.
Yeah,
That is a whole
reel it
nother
on
show.
back in. Reel it on back in.
No, and I was gonna say this to bring it on back in.
Yes, bring it on back in, Christian.
Even like I think people think about mental health and say like our therapy and say, oh, you have to be going through something. Like you have to have a trauma, you have to have a disorder, you have to have this. But like these conversations are something like a therapist can help with. Like I went to therapy because I was getting a divorce. It wasn't like nothing like crazy. I didn't have no financial
Getting a
issues.
divorce is crazy.
Yeah, but I was really trying to figure out like just making sure I'm good with myself while I transition on.
Oh, that's good.
And I think every transition deserves like, you know, some attention.
Yeah.
Ooh, say
Some
that
tender
one more
love and
time.
care,
Say
right?
that one more time. Every, what is it?
Transition
Every transition.
deserves some
Sometimes you use that for a
attention.
breakup.
Ooh,
That's
every
a good one.
transition deserves some attention.
Yes.
That's real. That's real. That's a beautiful.
Star, you've been real quiet about what have been your experiences regarding children or your thoughts about it?
I would just say, now, like I said, I'm 40 now, and we're trying to do the baby thing, and it is frustrating to be like, all these damn years, and now I want a child, or I'm at least open to having a child, and now it's like I just assume you just get pregnant, like. That's what I assume. It's like you don't pull out, you get pregnant, but that is definitely not the case. And so it's a bit frustrating in the sense of, and even like the work I do on maternal health with March of Dimes, it's like we're not having these conversations with young Black women, and even from the doctors are not. I'm not putting this. We're past blame. We're going to now make change. You're not seeing some of the few Black fertility doctors are actually here in Washington, D.C. And, you have those conversations with them, and they're like, yeah, our doctors are not having conversations about fertility and loss with Black women because there is a stigma around Black women. It's almost like we shouldn't be having babies. It's good for us not to have kids. That's one less welfare mouth to feed, or a less trauma, or for us to get through. And
Welfare
it's
mouth.
but that is really how Black mothers are seen.
Right, and that all started from after like the 1970s when like the father left the home, the whole welfare stuff, the teen pregnancy, all of that. And the craziest thing is
You
like
get rewarded for the more kids you have.
right, and the crazy thing is that teen pregnancy has went down, but not in the Black community.
No, it hasn't.
It's still there, and
not.
and the craziest thing is that there are foundations. There's so many people who are like giving these organizations money to put birth control in our children, our youth, our Black girls, because they don't want them to have kids. And you're right about that. And I think I honestly agree that the birth control is why we have those infertility
I went to college
issues.
and I had friends that had been on, like, what is it, the implant? Because
Yep.
this is the 90s, and they had an implant in their arm since they were like a junior or sophomore in high school. And you think now all of us are having fertility issues.
Yes.
And we're all like 40 to 43, and we're all in the same, bandwagon of like, well, now, damn, you gotta think there's gotta be some correlation. And sometimes it angers me that like we're not getting the level of care that we need and conversation around, like at 20, you need to start thinking about child, when you're gonna have children and planning. Maybe that's putting eggs to the side. Maybe, like certain things, before you get pregnant, a year before, you need to start taking certain vitamins.
Eating healthy.
I was about to say that.
I hate to talk about Beyonce because I know I just hate to put her on a pedestal, but I do love the fact that like she did go vegan before she went to start having kids. She started like this whole new routine of life, and I think that is real. Like when I was getting married, I went vegan, and it changes your whole like body. Like
yes,
you lose your like body fat, your skin is different. Like even when doing Pilates and yoga, like you will see that like toxins are releasing from your body. Like it is a whole different mind game. I honestly don't believe in birth control. I think that you shouldn't take it at all. Condoms are the what you need to go through. I mean,
well, it feels better without a condom. I always
hate that mindset.
When she will tell everybody who will listen.
I'm 36 and got one child. My pull-out game is impeccable.
Pull-out do not work.
Impeccable. Impeccable. It's impeccable. Mine's impeccable.
I know there's pre-cum, but
I don't understand that.
It ain't been a lot of it.
When it comes to men, when they be like, yo, like I couldn't just stop. I'm like, bro, you acting like if you pull out, you're not gonna orgasm, bro. It's still gonna happen.
It's a different sensation, my man.
Oh my God. Reel it back in. Listen. Just in closing.
Rodney says something.
Okay, just use
I'm
condoms.
Absolutely. In closing, how do we just all like give your insight, give your last words on, just addressing any woman, any person, any man, who may be dealing with a woman who's going through infertility, who's going through pregnancy loss. I'm gonna start with them.
I'm gonna start with. Do you want to see if we can get Erica back on the phone?
Nah, we about to close out.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with the men. What say you if you're dealing with a woman who's experiencing infertility, or you're dealing with a woman who's experiencing pregnancy loss? Like, what would be your thoughts? What would be your actual insight to any other men who've dealt with that or who are currently dealing with that?
Well, for the women, if I'm dealing with a woman who's going through that, I love you, man. So it's like if it just comes with the territory. Like I don't have this ideal. What I learned is like we live on life's terms. Life is not living on our terms.
Ooh.
So I don't have this ideal thing of like.
Say that again.
We living on life terms. Life is not living on our terms. Mm-hmm. So it's like this ideal thinking of like ideally like what will happen, because if you really love somebody, like I said, it's deeper than just circumstances. You know what I'm saying? Okay, this is a circumstance we're going through, but the other aspects of our relationship, are you empathetic? Are you caring? Are you loving towards me? Are you supporting? Nurturing? I could deal with, that's a deal breaker. I could deal with that. Okay, you can't have kids, cool, but I got all these other cool aspects about you that I don't want to let go just because of this ain't happening. This ain't your fault. You know what I'm saying? If you had it your way, you will produce kids, but it's just not in the card for us. So we got to choose alternative routes. That's why you just got to be open and objective, because if you have this ideal thing, I think that hurts us a lot too. Ideals of what society say traditional, and that's why I eradicate that on my thing. I don't think on traditional terms. I don't think ideal. I be like, yo, life is life, and when you're living it, you gotta adjust, and you gotta sometimes you just gotta improvise. So I'm gonna improvise with you. We're gonna just define another alternative.
Mm. Okay.
Right.
Let's
Come on,
see,
black
Thomas.
brother.
Involved with I love you. Damn. I was gonna say you strong.
You strong.
You strong.
You strong. That's what it is.
So you strong, and you won't got to worry about the idea of you not having kids or.
What would you tell another, like you got a friend of yours, a guy comes to you, he's talking about it. What would you tell him then?
Man, y'all about to get me canceled. Hold up, she can't have kids? You tell me that his girl can't have kids? Okay,
How would
right.
you get him? Like, what would you tell him as some insight?
Man, we gonna join on our friend. We gonna like shooting blanks, Limp Biscuit.
Nah, bro, you gotta be there for her. At the end of the day, you loved her as a person before you found out she couldn't have kids, right? I mean, that shouldn't be the ultimatum or the deal breaker for you leaving her. Like, buy a puppy. Raise the puppy. If you feel that strong about it, or adopt. If you don't and you feel strong about not adopting, then bro, there's something wrong with you.
And this
point.
And not to cut you off, but this is another reality of life too. Sometimes you gotta accept that some people that's their break. You know what I'm saying? That's their breaking point. Like they like, well, I can't do this because I want to have kids. So that comes with the territory where like sometimes a woman might have to accept the fact that like, yo, like
This is a person's deal
this
breaker.
is a deal breaker, yeah, and it's the harsh reality, but that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that they're a bad person for that either.
Okay.
It's just that, you know, in their cards, how they want to start a family, and that's their deal breaker. You know what I'm saying?
Christian, from a psychotherapy standpoint, how would you say, like, if Darius, with what you're saying, if a person says, no, this is a deal breaker for me, I want a child of my own, mentally, is there a way to like psychoanalyze that and say, you know, I hate to say right or wrong, but is it right to feel like this adopted kid, I can't look at as my own because it didn't come from me?
You have a right to feel the way you want to feel. That's what I was going to say, like, honestly embrace your feelings, embrace the healing process, embrace the grief, because I think sometimes people want to like suppress those emotions, and we can't do that because that stuff is going to come back up, and it's going to come back up in every situation you face. So you just have to embrace all of it, and like you said, if they say no, you have to respect that. You have to respect that is some rejection, and you have to deal with who you are and your journey and kind of push through.
Can they shuffle the deck? Can we reshuffle the deck? You said it's not in your cards.
This one over here.
Hey, come up with your own new life.
Star, what's your last word?
Okay. Oh, look, I'm like in dazed mode a little bit, but I'm enjoying the conversation. Last words. So I would say my last words, I have two things, as always. So first one is that, you know, have empathy with yourself first, because we can't give others what we don't have for ourselves. So, you know, be patient, empathetic. But if you want something, like, don't sit and be like, oh, I can't have a baby, or I haven't gotten pregnant, and you haven't even gone to the doctor. So, like, go through that process. If you've lost a child, have empathy for yourself and be patient with yourself. It can take a long time to grieve a loss. And then the second thing I think is just, you know, I don't know. I just think I'm trying to, I think if children for you in the traditional sense aren't in the cards, there are a lot of ways to mother and father children, even beyond traditional adoption, because traditional adoption is very expensive and it is a very long process, and some people are not going to qualify for it if you're not married. I mean, not that it's a much more difficult process. If you financially aren't in a certain place, they go through everything when you try to adopt. So that's not a silver bullet either. So there are other ways to mother and father children, and there are a lot of kids that need mother and father energy in their life, and you can provide that. So if that's something you want to do, don't give up on it. If your routes seem to not be working, there's a way to do anything in this universe. So that's all I got.
I would just say, man, Star, you said some great points. I definitely agree.
I
with
don't
empathy.
even remember what I said, right?
I know.
You be flowing with it.
She was giving me mentoring. Though.
Right.
Some little babies.
People need mother-father energy.
Yes,
Woo,
right.
That's a new one, right? Listen.
It's like,
No, I think everyone has said some great points. I just would add, reach out to the resources that you have. Erica McAfee, again, Sisters in Loss. She's an incredible resource to share your story, to learn from other women and their stories. I think and as women, if we looked around and recognized that we all have stories, and it's a lot of stories that we're not sharing. And one thing that Star always reminds me of, and when I get frustrated, is, take a moment to recognize and have grace for the woman who's next to you, so that you can receive that grace yourself. And so,
now that bitch trying to destroy me.
Go ahead, ruin my moment. I'm sorry. But I'm gonna have grace.
say something real quick?
Go ahead.
This is so refreshing.
I was about to say something too.
This is refreshing because it's like y'all remind me like of the TV show Girlfriends. And when you grow up, I grew up around like the love and hip hop type women.
Damn.
Like this is I'm being honest. This is so refreshing to hear like y'all. Man, it's just like you know what I'm saying. Like I'm sorry, I don't want to make it seem like it's a class thing, but it's refreshing because it's like these are conversations we need to have. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, maybe it's the ones we entertain. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm part of the blame too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is very.
But it's different,
insightful.
and it's not without work. You know, me and Star are completely different people, and it's definitely our relationship is work like any other relationship. But you know, again, like it takes that level of understanding that and having empathy, having grace, and being able to have these type of conversations and disagree because we disagree on different things. But we appreciate that. We receive that, and so thank you all again. Didn't tell you in the beginning, but subscribe Amerikan Therapy with a K. Follow us, our HBCU mental health tour, and we're excited about all the new things that are coming up. And we out.